started. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Division of Nutrition Support's monthly education series at CACFP, Let's Learn. This month is Kitchen and Food Safety, and we are happy to have you all with us. So, as usual, we'll begin with our non-discrimination statement. We are an equal opportunity provider. I did add the link to this statement right here, so you will be receiving a copy of this presentation, and you will have the link if you need that. So today for our Zoom meeting, please make sure that your phone or computer stay minimized. Turn off your cameras, okay? A lot of you are going to have connectivity issues, so if you turn off your camera, you'll have less of a chance of having those issues. And again, if you have any other questions, just hit us up in the chat. I do have Miss Brittany on with us today and Miss Sherelle. They are my counterparts here at Division of Nutrition Assistance to assist us and to chime in and to keep me on the straight and narrow path if I deviate from that on this training today. Food safety. We're just going to go ahead and dive right in. Multiple studies demonstrate that recipes and institutions that follow basic food safety instructions make eating and serving children much safer, okay? So what we want to do today is clean, separate, cook, and chill, okay? We want to make sure that we start off with clean, where everything is clean, that we separate our raw and our cooked items, that we cook to a proper temperature, and that we chill any leftovers down to the proper temperature, okay? Food safety begins with food procurement, okay? We want to make sure that we are purchasing refrigerated and frozen items after selecting your other non-perishables, okay? So make sure that you're getting your non-food items, your canned goods, and all of that first, because they don't have to stay refrigerated, okay? Never buy meat or poultry or anything perishable that's in packaging that is torn or if it's leaking. Do not buy food past the sell by or use by or any other expiration dates, okay? And then when you have food in your facilities, make sure you're using the first in, first out method of storage, and make sure all items are dated, okay? To where you're going to be using your oldest items first. Let's start off with canned goods, okay? In general, high acid canned foods such as tomatoes, your grapefruits, pineapples, assorted canned fruits, they can be stored unopened on a shelf for about 12 to 18 months. Okay, they'll last a pretty good long time. Low acid canned foods such as meat, your poultry, fish, and most vegetables will keep 2 to 5 years if they're unopened and the can remains in good condition. And if it's been stored in cool, clean, or dry place, okay? You want to make sure that you're discarding any cans that are dented, leaking, bulging, or rusted. And yes, I don't know if you guys have seen that, but canned goods can rust, okay? So please be aware of that. Produce. Gently rub produce under cold running water, okay? You're going to want to scrub produce with a clean vegetable brush, again, under running water. And always clean melons thoroughly before slicing, okay? I've seen this several times that people are going to slice watermelons and they don't wash, and scrub off the watermelon before slicing, okay? Just be aware that using a knife to slice a watermelon can transfer bacteria from the rinds of those watermelon or cantaloupe or honeydew melons. They can transfer bacteria from the rinds to the flesh part that people are eating. So just please remember that, just to wash it beforehand. Thawing foods, okay? It's best, the most preferred way to thaw food is in the refrigerator, okay? It allows for slow, safe thawing, and you want to make sure that thawing meat and poultry, that those juices don't drip onto another food. So always put them on like a sheet pan, baking pan, something else like that, to where we don't cross-contaminate anything in our refrigerators. And you're probably going to want to do that on the lowest shelf in the refrigerator that you have. The next best method would be the cold water method. Okay, it is faster. You can place the food in a leak-proof plastic bag. Okay, it's got to be totally sealed. And then you submerge that in cold tap water, and you change the water every 30 minutes. Because you're not going to want that water to get warm, because that's just a great environment for bacterial growth. And then you cook it immediately after thawing. Okay. The third method, it would be to use the microwave to thaw something, and then you would have to cook the meat or poultry immediately after removing it from the microwave. So that's thawing. Cross-contamination. Okay, we want to avoid cross-contamination in our facilities in any way possible. So wash cutting boards, counters, utensils, serving plates after touching raw meats, poultry, seafood, or eggs. Okay, you're going to want to wash your hands as well, and preferably use disposable paper towels, not one towel to dry your hand off on, okay, that you can throw away. Don't reuse marinades that you use on raw food, okay, because there is a lot of bacteria in that. Do not rinse raw poultry or meat. And I don't know about you guys, but this is the one that could be slightly controversial, because when I was growing up, I watched my mom and grandparents and grandmother, they always rinsed off the chicken, they always rinsed off the meat. However, when you do that, there is such a high probability of it splattering or of you transmitting bacteria around the kitchen. Okay, so just be aware of that. Improper handling of raw meat and poultry and seafood and eggs can create an inviting environment for cross-contamination. Okay, it can and does happen. As a result, harmful bacteria, you probably won't even be aware of it. It can easily spread to food throughout the kitchen, leading to a foodborne illness. Okay, just think about it. If you're processing raw chicken in order to put it in the oven to bake, and then the phone rings, or you're in a facility and someone knocks on the door and you have to go touch the door handle to let them in, or because we all know we live in an age of multitasking, and that's how our days flow smoothly. So just be aware of that. Ground beef. Refrigerate or freeze ground beef as soon as possible after purchase. Okay, if you're going to put it in the refrigerator, your refrigerators need to be below 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, and you're going to want to use that within 1 to 2 days. Okay, and be aware that ground beef and meat products, they do have an expiration date on them. So making sure that when you're at the stores, that you're purchasing all your meats and perishable items that have the longest usable dates on there. For longer, you can freeze ground beef. In freezer storage, you can wrap that in some heavy-duty plastic wrap, aluminum foil, freezer paper, or plastic freezer, Ziploc freezer bags. The best way to safely thaw ground beef is again in the refrigerator. Okay. Again, to do that quicker, you can defrost it in the microwave or in cold water. Okay. Making sure again you change that water every 30 minutes. And never leave ground beef or any perishable food out at room temperature for more than 2 hours. Okay. And if you're outside, okay, and it's above 90 degrees, which is frequently during summertime and especially here in Louisiana, that it's no more than 1 hour at 90 degrees. Poultry, okay. The bacteria on poultry, it's typically, primarily Salmonella, and this can be found on any raw or undercooked chicken. Okay. Bacteria multiplies rapidly at temperatures between 40 and 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Out of refrigeration and before thorough cooking occurs. Okay. That 40 to 140 is our danger zone. Okay. That's the zone at which bacteria just really, really, really multiply rapidly. So most foodborne illness outbreaks are a result of contamination from food handlers. Okay. The bacteria must be ingested, okay, to cause a foodborne illness. However, raw poultry, it has to be handled very carefully to prevent cross-contamination. If that it can occur with poultry or with juice that could come in contact with cooked foods that will be eaten raw, like salads, okay, or fruit. Making sure that you prepare, that you have a space in your facility or in your kitchen that you using for raw products, and that you have a totally different space, maybe like on the other side of the counter, on the other side of the sink, on the other side of the kitchen, that you're using to store your ready to eat foods, just to keep them as separate as you can. Let's talk about cooking boards. Cutting boards for a minute. Cutting boards are wonderful things, okay? But cutting boards have to be kept clean, okay? You're going to want to sanitize these cutting boards using a solution of a tablespoon of unscented liquid chlorine bleach in a gallon of water, okay? And it's going to have to stay in there for a certain amount of time. Separate your cutting boards. You're going to want one cutting board for fresh, washed produce. Okay. Usually your cutting boards these days come in a pack of 3. One is green, one is red, and one is white. Okay. Because that's following the HACCP principles, trying to control our hazard analysis critical control points. Okay. So let's talk about washed produce. Okay. Because you're always, before you put that on a cutting board, you're always going to want to wash it first. We've established that. So if you have different colored cutting boards, you're going to want to use your green cutting board for fresh washed produce. Okay. And that's the only thing you're going to want to use it for. The red one is typically for raw meats. Okay. And you're going to want to keep that separate. The white one is typically for cooked foods. Okay. Like if you're slicing cooked chicken or chicken nuggets, things like that. That one, or slicing a sandwich in half, that can be used for your cooked foods. Use separate plates and utensils for cooked foods. Okay. And we see this all the time in our facilities. There will be a separate serving spoon for each item. That's a wonderful practice. For raw foods, never placed cooked food back on the same plate that previously held raw meat, poultry, seafood, or eggs. Okay. And honestly, I can remember seeing this. Guys, I don't know how I've made it this far, I guess. I can remember being a small child at barbecues and picnics and family reunions. And that is where you have the most wonderful food. Okay. Everything was outstanding. It was great food served there. However, I can remember the guys and the men barbecuing that they would put all the meat on the pit from this great big old sheet pan. And what would happen next? They would go to the water hose and they would just rinse that off, okay? Because they had more meat coming off the pit, okay? This would be a huge chance for cross-contamination, because without the proper cleaning and sanitizing of those dishes and of those utensils, you have the possibility to transmit bacteria from your raw food to your cooked food, and really make everyone pretty sick. So wash the plates, wash all those things with hot water and soap before using with other foods. So let's talk a little bit more about thawing poultry. Okay, so the 3 different methods: the refrigerator, cold water, and microwave. Okay, never sit that on the counter or in the kitchen or in any other location to thaw. Okay, it's best to plan ahead and thaw those things in the refrigerator. Again, you can use the cold water in airtight packaging. And if it was thawed in the microwave, make sure to cook that immediately. Do not cook frozen chicken in a slow cooker or in the microwave. Okay. Something else to think about: if you are trying to cook a frozen chicken or some anything frozen in the microwave, or especially in a slow cooker, that product is going to stay in the food danger zone for a long time, and that is going to allow for massive bacterial growth. Okay. So please don't do that. Make sure it's completely thawed before cooking. Food safety for early learning centers. Okay. If you have in your approved budget for non-food items, okay, you should be able to purchase your items with your food program money, depending upon where you're at in the budget. Okay. Hand washing. Hand washing is probably, I would say, the single most important aspect to preventing the cross-contamination of bacteria and to prevent foodborne illnesses. Okay. Wet your hands with clean running water, warm or cold. You can turn off the water and then you apply your soap. Lather your hands up, rubbing them together. Okay. Scrub your hands for at least 20 seconds. Think about the happy birthday song. Okay. Or some ABCs there. Don't forget the tops of your hands and the tops of your thumbs. Okay. Think about it. When you're washing your hand, make sure that you're getting the tops of your thumbs. Make sure you're getting all around your fingernails really well. Make sure that you're getting in the creases of your hands. Again, make sure that you are washing your hands thoroughly. Rinse them, okay, under running water, and then dry your hands using a clean towel, preferably a disposable towel. Okay. We've all been in places where we have kitchen towels. Okay. But again, those kitchen towels left out can harbor bacterial growth. So using a disposable towel like paper towels or anything like that, that is a best practice. Hand washing. Okay. You and your staff, you guys are going to want to make sure that you wash your hands before, during, and after preparing food. Okay. Before eating or handling food, before putting on gloves. Okay. If you're putting gloves on a dirty hand, you're not doing much good. Okay. You have to put those gloves on clean hands. Okay. You're going to want to wash your hands before and after caring for someone who is sick. and before and after treating a cut or a wound or cleaning bodily fluids. Okay. Sometimes in centers, we see this quite frequently. It's allergy season, and kids frequently, they just have colds and runny noses. Okay. So what we would want to see is someone wash their hands, put on some gloves, grab some Kleenex, maybe wipe noses, dispose of all of that properly, and then wash or sanitize hands again. That's what we would want to see. So hand washing after you touch the garbage, okay? After handling raw meat, poultry, seafood, juices, or uncooked raw eggs, okay? Now let's talk about, I want to expand on this a little bit. So if you're preparing meat, okay, we know, and you've got raw chicken thighs. You got raw chicken thighs or raw chicken legs on a sheet pan in front of you. What do we still need to do with that? We need to season it. Okay, this is Louisiana, and we know how to season our food. So if you grab the seasoning with your hand and you haven't washed your hand, what happens? You just transferred that raw bacteria to the jar of seasoning, okay? And that's an opportunity for some cross-contamination to occur, okay? So having that seasoning ready is probably something that you're going to want to do beforehand. And if that seasoning is in the counter and you haven't washed your hands, you're going to touch the cabinet to open it, the cabinet handle to open it. Then you're going to grab the seasoning, and then you're going to season it. That's at least 2 areas where you could have cross-contaminated. You could have cross-contamination in your kitchen. Okay. And then again, I have people tell me all the time, well, I have gloves on. Okay. But if you don't take off your gloves and wash your hands, if you reach, with the same gloves on, then you're still cross-contaminating these items. Okay. So after handling raw meat, poultry, seafood, okay, again, after using the toilet, goes without saying, wash your hands. After changing diapers or cleaning up after a child who has used the toilet, okay, that's going to be taking off your gloves and washing and sanitizing your hands. Fun fact, do you guys see this next little bullet point right down there? 1 trillion germs can be found in 1 gram of poop. That is about the weight of a paperclip. So think about paperclip. They don't weigh a lot at all. Okay. 1 trillion germs can be found. Okay. If in that amount of poop. Okay. And then after blowing your nose, coughing, or sneezing, again, you are going to want to wash your hands and sanitize them very well. I am seeing some questions on our chat. Yes, there are going to be slides that you can, and the PowerPoint will be available hopefully by tomorrow afternoon, or at least by Friday, on our Fit Kids site. And we will be sending out an email with a link to that will take you to the site, and you can look up and search and find this program and presentation, and you can download it or print the PowerPoint out, whichever you would like. So food safety for our early learning centers. Okay, washing cutting boards, dishes, utensils, and countertops with hot soapy water. Okay, after preparing each food item and before going on to the next food item. Consider using paper towels to clean up your kitchen surfaces instead of one single kitchen rag. If you're using cloth towels, wash them every single day, preferably twice a day. Okay, once after breakfast and once after lunch, in the hot cycle of your washing machine. Rinse fruits and vegetables under running tap water, especially those with the skins and rinds that are not eaten. And you're going to want to rub firm skinned fruits and vegetables, okay, with the clean vegetable brush to make sure that you're getting those items as clean as possible. Let's talk about hand sanitizer for a minute. You apply hand sanitizer to the palm of your hand, okay? Read the labels to learn the correct amounts, okay? You rub your hands together, you get the gel over all of the surfaces of your hands and your fingers until it's dry, and it should take around 20 seconds, okay? So, but caution, swallowing, and we all know this, we're early learning centers, swallowing alcohol-based hand sanitizers can cause alcohol poisoning. Make sure you are following all regulatory agency guidelines to keep the hand sanitizers out of the reach of young children, and make sure you supervise its use, okay? I'd hate to hear of a young child that's got hand sanitizer on their hands and then they rub their eyes, okay? That's gonna burn. So just make sure that you're monitoring its use. I want to dive into a little bit more talking about gloves. Do we have any questions up to this point? We've got a few other things to talk about, but I just want to give you guys a second or two to use the chat and make sure that I'm on track and that I'm doing a good job in explaining all this. I want to make sure I give you guys the opportunity to ask questions. Okay, moving on. When to wear gloves. If you're handling ready to eat foods without utensils, okay? If you're putting chicken nuggets on a plate, if you're putting apple slices on a plate, you're going to want to have, well, number one, wash your hands, because remember, we do not put on gloves. We don't put gloves on dirty hands. We always want to wash our hands, make sure they're thoroughly dry. And then we're going to put on clean gloves. So when we're handling ready to eat foods without utensils, okay? When serving food without utensils, and then if you have a wound or a cut on your hand that has a bandage on it, and this is to protect the bandage from coming off and to keep cross-contamination of your bodily fluids to someone else's food. So you're going to want to put a clean glove over that on your hand. So again, we wash our hands and dry them thoroughly, okay? Because those are, we've all tried to put on gloves when our hands weren't completely dry. It's not that easy. So you're going to want to grab gloves from the box by the cuff, okay? Only touch the one glove that you're going to use, and then hold on to the back of the cuff, and then pull the glove over your hand without touching any other part of the glove. Okay. Let's talk about when to change gloves. Anytime your glove gets torn or dirty or contaminated, you need to change your gloves. Okay. We know our young little friends and the individuals that are in our early learning centers, they drop their utensils, they drop their spoons and forks on the ground all the time. Okay. If your teacher has a glove on and she reaches down and she picks that up from the floor, she's going to need to wash her hands and before putting on another glove. Okay. Before starting another job. Okay. In between diapering children. Okay. Changing gloves. In between wiping noses. Okay. Rinsing, sanitizing, washing hands, drying hands, changing gloves. Okay. When leaving the work area or going on a break. Okay. Changing the gloves. If the cook is dishing out food in the kitchen and the cook has to go leave the kitchen and help someone in a classroom, okay, those gloves will come off. She'll sanitize or use hand sanitizer before she walks in the classroom. And then before she goes back to the kitchen, she's going to wash her hands again and then dry them and then put on clean gloves. So whenever you're changing workstations or those areas. And then when going to the bathroom, okay? And don't forget, always wash hands, when changing gloves before starting another job. So winter gloves not needed. Okay, if you were working with raw food, that will be cooked. Okay, so if you're cleaning chicken, you are not required to wear gloves. Okay, because you're going to wash your hands. If you choose to wear gloves, that's fine. Okay, just again, you'll take off those gloves and then still wash your hands. When cleaning kitchen equipment, okay, you're not required to wear gloves. And when handling trash, you're not required to wear gloves. You may choose to do so, which is fine, but the Louisiana Department of Health does not require gloves on in these three instances. Changing lanes a little bit. We're still on food safety. Let's talk about cooking temperatures. Okay. We want to make sure that we're cooking food to the appropriate temperature to make sure that we're not allowing for any bacterial growth in there. So we're going to want to use a food thermometer that's going to measure the internal temperature of cooked meats, poultry, and egg dishes to make sure that the food is cooked to a safe internal temperature. Most red meats, your roasts, your steaks, that's going to be at a minimum of 145 degrees Fahrenheit. All poultry has to be cooked to at least 165 to make sure we're killing all the salmonella bacteria in there. What you're going to want to do is check the innermost parts of your thighs and wings and the thickest part of a breast. And if there's bones in that breast, you're going to want to go towards that bone with the food thermometer to make sure it's at least 165. Okay. If you're cooking chicken, if you're cooking a leg with a thigh attached to it, at the top of that thigh bone, that's usually where that's the thickest part. That's right there by the bone marrow. You are going to want to make sure that temps out at least 165 for 15 seconds to make sure that you've killed off all the bacteria. And then ground meats, where bacteria can spread during grinding, you want to cook those to at least 160 degrees. This is a great little slide, safe temperatures, okay? Beef, pork, veal, lamb, your roasts and chops, 145 with at least a 3-minute of rest time. Ground meats, 160, poultry, 165. Any leftovers, anything that you are reheating, okay? And we know we don't reheat things for the food program, but just for personal use, leftovers at the house, 165. And any type of fin fish, okay, catfish at 145 degrees. Let's talk about refrigerating promptly. Maintaining your refrigerators at 32 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit is one of the most effective ways to reduce the risk of foodborne illness. Okay. If you have milk that is not lasting to the expiration date, chances are your refrigerators, the doors are staying open too much, or somewhere along the life of that milk product, it's gotten warm. Okay. So that is one of the most perishable food items that we probably have in our kitchens is milk. And we want that stuff to last. It is also very expensive. Okay. And we all want to be passing our milk audits. So beef, hamburger, that's 1 to 2 days in the refrigerator and about 3 to 4 months in the freezer. Okay. Ham, your vacuum packed deli slices, those will last about 3 to 5 days in the refrigerator, depending on how many days until the expiration you have, or 1 to 2 months in the freezer. I'll give you guys a few minutes or so to just kind of look over this slide. Milk, we know we do not freeze milk. And we have chicken, raw sausage, and then hot dogs, any type of hot dog. Okay. These are estimated, the days on here, like 1 to 2 days or 2 weeks. The expiration dates on the products themselves, the use by dates, are the ones you always go with. Okay, so this is just a general guide. Serving foods. Hot foods should be held at 140 degrees or warmer. Okay. Now, we do not want to, with this said, we do not want to burn any of our little friends in our centers. Okay. So we do allow those plates to cool down before they're served. Cold foods should be held at 40 degrees or colder. Again, use your food thermometers to check hot and cold temperatures. Perishable foods should not be left out for more than 2 hours at room temperature. Okay. And then again, 1 hour when the temperature is above 90 degrees. Okay. I catch family members on this one all the time. For CACFP, any food that has been cooked may not be served to children in the program again. Okay. So we really want to make sure that we're cooking what we need. Okay. And we know we always cook a little extra. Okay. We cook extra just because people will spill. And just because a lot of times we know the children that we have, what we will want, they're going to want extras of certain items. Okay. So a leftover canned good, say if you open a can of fruit cocktail or a number 10 can of fruits, that has not been heated or processed. So that can be stored according to health code regulations and reused. Okay. It's just once you cook it, we don't serve the leftovers. Okay. Once it's been cooked. But we know if you're only going to use half of a loaf of whole grain bread, you are able to store that and serve that again. Microwave tips. Make sure there are no cold spots in the food, okay, where bacteria can survive when cooking in the microwave. So for best results, cover that food. You can stir it, okay. When it's cooking, you can rotate it when it's cooking. Most microwaves these days I see have turntables. Okay, well, they'll spin around. But still, you're going to want to stir that whenever you're cooking. Kitchen safety. Cleaning agents, soap and detergent are not disinfectants, and disinfectants are not cleaning agents. Okay, I want to say this one more time. Cleaning agents, soap and detergent, are not disinfectants, and disinfectants are not cleaning agents. Okay, you can use all the disinfectant you want on a dirty countertop, and guess what? That countertop is still going to be dirty. Okay, and it will not be disinfected. It has to be cleaned first. So before you sanitize a countertop, okay, it has to be cleaned first with soap and water. Okay. Before that sanitizing solution to work. Okay. Sanitizing uses a product that reduces but does not totally eliminate germs on inanimate surfaces, the levels considered safe by public health codes or regulations. Okay. A sanitizer may be appropriate to use on food contact surfaces like your dishes, your utensils, cutting boards, high chairs, and toys that that children may or may not place in their mouths. Okay. So check with agency guidelines and read the guidelines on these individual products. In order to know if they're safe to be used on certain items. Okay. So let's hit this a little deeper. Let's take a little bit deeper dive. What's the difference? So a disinfectant is a product that destroys or inactivates germs, but not spores on an inanimate object. Okay. A disinfectant may be appropriate to use on a hard, non-porous surface, such as like a diaper changing table, countertops, your door and cabinet handles, toilets, and other bathroom surfaces. Okay. So a non-porous surface. Let's talk about that. If the surface has any cuts, and I see this sometimes with cutting boards, if you are using a cutting board and it's got scratches and knife marks and things in it, you are going to want to sand that cutting board to where it doesn't have that, because bacteria can live and grow and thrive in those cuts. You're going to want to make sure that your cutting boards are in really good condition. Okay. Because again, that disinfectant may not get down in the cuts in your cutting board to be able to kill all that. Okay. And then again, if I haven't seen this in a long time, I don't think any of us really has this anymore, but like those old-timey wood laminate cutting boards, okay, that it's not a single product. Those can also harbor bacteria and germs. So cleaning agents, determine if the surface requires sanitizing or disinfecting or both. Okay. I mean, if you by the end of the time that you're finished serving your kids and you go back to your countertops, okay, you're probably going to have some dried on grease, maybe some dried on gravies, things splatter. Okay. So that is going to have to be cleaned with soap and water. Okay. To remove those items and then come back and be sanitized. Check the labels to see on all of the products that you're using to see if they're EPA registered. Okay. Many chlorine bleach products, okay, are 8.25% sodium hypochlorite. They're now EPA registered. Okay. Follow the label instructions. Okay. And make sure that you're leaving those solutions on long enough. It might take 30 seconds. Some might take a minute. Okay. To truly disinfect that area. So there might be a time for how long you have to leave those on. Prepare and use the solution safely. Okay. And use products that are safe for oral contact when used on food contact surfaces or on items that may be mouthed by children. Okay, keep that in mind. So how strong should a disinfectant be? Okay, that depends. A stronger concentration is required when a cloth or objects are dipped into the solution, because each time you dip it in there, it's going to release some germs into that solution, potentially contaminating the solution and in effect diluting the solution. Okay. So if you have a bucket of sanitizer in your facility, you're going to want to use the test strips to make sure that the concentration is appropriate. Okay. You don't want it too strong. You don't want to hurt any of your workers. Okay. You don't want it to irritate their skin. But you want it to do a good job. You want it to do the job that you need it to do. Okay. And sometimes that can be a fine line. Okay. In general, it's best not to rinse off the solution or wipe the object dry right away, because it's going to need some contact time. And it's got to be in contact with the germs long enough to kill them. So let's talk about bleach and water strengths. So CDC, Centers for Disease Control, has two different recipes: a strong bleach solution and a weak bleach solution. Okay, so follow these guidelines. So your recipe is about a quarter cup of bleach to 1 gallon of cool water, or a tablespoon of bleach to a quart of cool water. Okay, and always add the bleach into the water. Okay, because you're risking less chance of splashing. So, and your minimum contact time is 2 minutes. Okay. And then the weak bleach solution is a tablespoon of bleach to a gallon of cool water, and your minimum contact time is 1 minute. Okay, on that. So please measure, guys. Please measure when you're doing this. It's And I've been guilty of it myself. You grab the gallon of bleach and you just pour it up, so glug, glug, glug. You just get 3 or 4 glugs in there when mixing sanitizers and things. But again, please measure. Okay. We don't want anyone injured. We don't want you guys injured, your staff, or any children. So tables, chairs, and counters need to be sanitized. Wipe them off with strong bleach solutions. Any of your food items, any of your food serving utensils, if you're using metal forks and knives and spoons for your children, that can be once you wash those off and scrub them with soap and water, those can be soaked in the bleach solution to be sanitized and then air dried. So again, preparing bleach solutions, use gloves, use eye protection, use funnels. Okay. You're going to want to make your solutions fresh daily. Okay. And if your solutions get too contaminated with food particles and things like that, make you a fresh solution. Okay. Please do not add any other products to a bleach solution. Okay. Never, never, never mix or store ammonia with bleach products. Okay. You would think everybody would know this. Okay. Not everybody does. Okay. So any new employees, just don't assume that they know not to mix ammonia and bleach. I have been aware of somebody when if you've got bleach water and then you give it a couple squirts of dish detergent, you are not killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Okay. You still, that does not take the place of soap and water washing, let it dry, and then coming back with a sanitizer. So if you're going to use a spray bottle of a bleach solution, make sure adjust the setting to produce a heavy spray instead of a fine mist. You are never, ever, ever going to want to spray a bleach solution while children are present in the area. You're going to want to make sure that you have enough good ventilation to where the smell doesn't get too strong. Okay. And before allowing children back in the area. And again, we always want to secure these chemicals out of the reach of children and in a way they're not to tip and spill. We have already gone over this, but again, I did want to mention it. So I will leave this slide for you all to look at. And we will move on to food allergies. Food allergies. We have more than 160 foods, okay, can cause an allergic reaction in people. The USDA and the Consumer Product Safety Commission has identified 8 common foods that are causing the most allergies. These are going to be milk, eggs, fish, crustacean shellfish, tree nuts, peanuts, wheat and soybeans. Okay. Those are the top 8 possible signs of allergies. Okay. If someone's allergic to something, they might not even know that they're allergic to it. These can happen. You can have an allergic reaction within minutes or up to 2 hours after a person has eaten the food. And here is a list of most of the more common items that can happen and could signal a possible allergic reaction. So this brings us to medical statements. We want to make sure that we have those medical statements on file and that we're following them, that we are not serving any items that children are allergic to. We want to make sure that the kitchen has a list of children with specific food allergies, that all staff is aware. And you want to make sure that parents don't bring in any foods that another child could be allergic to. One of our last topics, physical safety. How many of you guys, we see it all the time, that You guys have a very hard time hiring employees and keeping them. Okay. So we don't want anybody injured on the job. Okay. So we want to make things as safe as possible. So just be aware that there are cutting gloves on the market. You can get them from Amazon. You can get them from wherever you'd like. Okay. It's a cut resistant glove that you can put on your hand. And then you can put a plastic glove on over it. And it protects you from accidental cuts when using knives. Okay. If someone is slicing something up. Store your heaviest items at waist level to reduce the risk of back injuries. Week before last, I was at a very large school system and they were serving snacks, and they put all of the bags on the top shelf of a cart because the cart had two shelves, and they put all of the cartons of milk in their crates on the bottom of the shelf. So I was looking at them and I was watching these ladies, and a couple of them, there was a whole lot of cartons of milk on that bottom shelf. I was like, y'all, why don't y'all put your heaviest item on the top to where you're not bending down and bending over? I was really concerned that they were going to hurt their backs. And they're like, well, we never thought about that. We've just always put it that way. So, excuse me, try to store your heaviest items at waist level. Okay. No one wants to put those huge number 10 cans way up high on those shelves. Ms. Pearl Wiley, since you have your video on, I am now looking at your kitchen. And I can see your cans stored on those racks that are a little bit high. And I would sure hate for someone to injure their back reaching overhead or have one of those fall off like they can. So just a suggestion would be to have all of those items at waist level. There are slip resistant shoes on the market because we know we're going to mop those kitchens. We know things could fall on the floor. Limit jewelry and fingernails, lengths and types. Use eye protection when using chemicals. Oven mitts and pot holders. Make sure they're clean and in good condition. There shouldn't be any holes in those things. And they really need to be cleaned every single day. Keeping knives sharp. Okay. Make sure you have a knife sharpener on hand. Okay. The more force you have to use with a knife when cutting, the higher the risk of you cutting yourself. This brings us to a close for today's kitchen and food safety topic for March. This is how you contact us. Okay. This is all of our email addresses and phone numbers. So what happens next? Over the next 2 days, you're going to receive the email with the link to the webinar recording and any handouts that we need to include. If you're attending this training live, you're going to receive an email from me that serves as your documentation of clock hours for Pathways. Okay. It's your responsibility to retain the document. Okay. They cannot be duplicated. And if you've registered correctly with separate email addresses for each attendee, all attendees from your institutions will receive the email. Okay.